In today's episode, opportunity lost, Tesla introduces dog mode, and Tim was wrong. Let's get ludicrous. Hello and welcome to Our Ludicrous Future. This is the podcast where we talk about the future technology stuff that's making the stuff today the stuff of tomorrow and stuff. Yeah, so I'm Joe Scott from the Answers with Joe YouTube channel. With me is Tim Dodd.
Hey, it's me, Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut from where I am when I'm on that net thing with the inters. And also we have Ben Solins.
What's up, guys? It's Ben Solins from Teslanomics. How are we doing,
We're getting
fellas?
worse about this.
I know, it's just turning into more and more of a
I
crap
know.
show every episode. I think it's me, sorry. Joe,
Well, let's
let's
talk
talk about
Tim.
Joe who's sick. We got sick
very
Joe.
sick.
We're just trading it up. I was sick, and then it passed through the cable into Joe's headphones and now into his face.
Is that how it works?
Yes.
You guys got to stop making
Yeah.
out all the time. You know,
Can't.
pass that stuff
Through our headphones?
back and forth.
Through
No,
headphones.
I'm just giving a general warning to all the viewers and listeners that there will be coughing, there will be general fluid sounds coming out of my face, and I'm on like 5 different types of drugs. So normally that would be sublime, but not in this case. But anyway, just
Darn
letting
it.
everybody know.
So if you're interested in seeing those things, make sure to check out the YouTube video.
I should just do that on my second channel. Just
JoeSick.com.
that's way too much information.
Yeah.
So Tim, let's talk about your corn shirt.
You like my corn shirt?
Your
Falcorn heavy. Yeah, I do like limited edition shirts in my web store, just like things that are like kind of temporary, you know, and this was for the 1-year anniversary of Falcon Heavy. Although a lot of people are like, that's a Delta 4 Heavy, Tim. I'm like, it's not my fault the Delta 4 Heavy looks more like corn than the Falcon Heavy, guys. This is based on corn, not on the rock. Like, we're not going to make corn. We tried actually making corn. The graphic designer tried making corn like that skinny, and it just looks super stupid. So yeah, Falcorn Heavy.
Nice. Are we gonna see
No.
Falcon Heavy soon? By the way, I'm still waiting on a date from you.
I'm waiting on a date for DM1, man. That's first and foremost. It's going to be a while. I have a feeling it will be late April now.
Oh, see, I convinced Jenny to let me take Jack.
Yeah, you said that.
To it. She's not coming though, so. But it's like trying to figure out dates and all that stuff, and then I imagine it wouldn't overlap the Model Y.
Hopefully,
maybe.
no, it probably won't. You should
because
get a Falcorn Heavy shirt to wear to Falcon Heavy.
He'll launch a Model Y into space with it.
Yeah, I probably will.
That would be fantastic. They're like, can I at least see it
It's like,
first?
nope, it's in the fairing. Sorry, too late. We already packed it up.
Oh,
So
man.
Tim, does that make it hard? Because I know you go to a lot of launches and they get moved around so much. Like, how do you even plan for that kind of thing?
Stress. A lot of stress. It's one thing if you live in Florida. It's another thing when you live in Iowa, trying to like plan around. And like for something I'm working on a whole crew going down with me. And that's just making, oh my God, it's like a nightmare. It really is. It's a lot, like genuinely, like just even think about it, I start getting like stressed out.
I mean, are there special, I don't know, with the airlines, can you, if they cancel at the last minute and you just, or I guess you stuck
So
with
depending on the airline,
buy a
yeah,
refundable
sometimes you
ticket.
can find ones that are flexible, but not with American Airlines really. So I tend to not fly down. I tend to drive because I also have a lot of gear and stuff, which takes 2 days there, 2 days back. But it's honestly, it's almost worth it,
Man.
especially now that it's free, like literally free. So that's kind of nice.
Oh, with your car. Oh.
Yeah.
for the next 6 months.
No, free for me for life.
Oh, that's right. I'm so jealous of that. It's so like, I don't know why. I feel like there's this pain when I pay for supercharging. I'm like, are you kidding me? Come on.
Nope. Nice try.
Ignorance is bliss. I've never had it, so I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't know.
I just spent $5 on gas. That's fine.
Yeah. Gas or electricity. Blah, blah. Well, we should probably get right on to I think, speaking of like, you get sadness. Were we speaking of sadness, stress, maybe negativity,
Yeah.
Long journeys.
long journeys? There we go. Electricity running out and filling it back up,
Oh.
and then running back out. Joe, why don't you take this one? You've if you're not too sick.
We lost opportunity, guys. It's gone.
I can't.
Does that make it is that a lost opportunity? Is that
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
trying to figure out what's the best cheesy way of saying it. Is it lost opportunity or opportunity lost or it's been like 6 months now. That was kind of like on the brink, wasn't it?
Since
For those who
June.
don't know, which I'm imagining most people who follow this kind of stuff know, big, huge, massive planet-wide dust storm hit Mars about 6 to 8 months
It was
ago.
June 2018.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. I got something right. And
and it forced Matt Damon
Yeah,
to
exactly.
eject.
Mhm.
or to-
and he just left
right.
opportunity there. But no, so it covered up the opportunities, solar panels, and the last message that it sent to NASA was, "My batteries are low and it's getting dark." That's just like sad, man.
I can't even. Why?
But opportunity. There's so much that's been talked about this already, but it was supposed to last for 90 days, and it lasted for 15 years.
Yep.
Like, it's the little rover that could. I mean, it was an amazing program, and to all the people who worked on it, who built it, who managed it, who did all the science with it, like they could not have knocked that out of the park better. And it's an amazing legacy. So
This is
kudos
like
to NASA and JPL and all those guys, because that was remarkable.
This is like that definition of when JPL builds something, and people might be critical of sometimes, like, NASA potentially being over budget on some things or whatever. But when you hire JPL and NASA to build a spacecraft, holy crap, they just knock it out. I mean, this is unbelievable. A rover lasting that long on the surface of Mars is absolutely insane. So, and just for the record too, we've been listening for it since it went out of contact for almost 8 months or whatever it is. And
they did not give up easily.
No,
they were trying for 8 months to bring that thing back.
Yeah, people were like, why don't they just listen more? And it's like, it does cost a lot of resources, a lot of human, people are having to, be at their stations, run their stations in order to listen in for this thing, basically. And the whole crew I don't know about the whole crew, but, a lot of people were still working on it. It costs money to listen to silence, unfortunately. And, so it is worth it to call the mission. It's not like it didn't have a chance to do its work. It kicked total butt. It's one of those flagship missions that just went off so well. Huge hats off to everyone involved. I mean, and Ben, just so you probably don't know the story, but Spirit and Opportunity launched at basically the same time, 1 month apart. In what was that, 2000?
Twin rovers.
Yeah, was that 2002 or 2003?
And were they both rovers, or were they both?
They're identical, actually, basically.
Yeah, they were
rovers?
basically the same thing.
They landed in two different places.
Okay. Well, why would you do a lander versus a rover? Is it like, I don't understand. Like, it seems like, cool, we've got rovers. Why? Because we just landed a lander
Insight.
on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
The latest one. And so, like, why would you? To me, that seems like going backwards. What do I not understand?
If I can chime in, I think it's depending on what they want to do with the particular robot, rover, lander, robot. Let's just split the difference. Because with Insight, they were all about the seismic, like figuring out what's underneath the ground. So they don't really need to move around much to do that. It's more about like setting up a spot and hitting, like, with not ultrasound, but seismic activity and stuff like that. So it kind of need to sit in one spot and feel the ground, basically. Whereas rover, Spirit, Opportunity, Curiosity, like they move around, they test different rocks, they explore, and so it all just kind of depends on what it's made for.
So there's kind of like a use case for that versus the other one.
And it's like if you're studying weather, like if you are a weather station, you don't need weather stations on wheels. Like you want them stationary. We don't have around here. You stick them on a pole. Like some things, it's okay to be stationary, and depending on its suite of instruments and depending on what it's going to study, it's simpler and easier, lighter. You can potentially, like, for instance, say your option was having wheels and the drive motors and all the necessary, instrumentation that requires all that stuff to run, or you could have 2 more science instruments, but you'll be stationary. Like that's an engineering trade-off, a solution that might be worth it, So just totally depends. Totally depends. I learned something interesting when kind of like brushing up on it, like, you know, of that, despite the two rovers being rovers being almost identical, and launching. Let me actually pull up when they launched. They did take off 1 month apart from each other. They launched in 2003. There we go. Opportunity. Geez, sorry. I have like 10,000 tabs
I'm
open.
the one that's supposed to be loopy here. Come on.
That was me 2 weeks ago when I had.
I'm rubbing
that
off
was
on
terrible. But Opportunity launched a month after Spirit. But because it launched a month after, and because it was a slightly less ideal, you know, rendezvous, like, you know, when you get to Mars, you have a pork chop thing, basically. It's saying, like, here is where it's the most convenient, requires the less amount of energy. Despite them being almost, you know, virtually the exact same two robots, Opportunity required it actually required a Delta II Heavy, which has bigger 9 solid rocket boosters that are larger than Spirit did. So it actually required a bigger vehicle, essentially, to get it to the same destination, because it took off at a slightly less than ideal time, you know, a month later. So
That's interesting.
And since it was the same launch provider, you know, this was Lockheed Martin on their Delta II. They, you know, a month reset for the same pad, same vehicle, basically, a Delta II, was a pretty quick turnaround for that. So, yes, but it's just an interesting thing that it took a bigger vehicle to get the same vehicle to the same place.
It makes me think of the fact that they launched Voyager 2 before they launched Voyager 1. Because they were on different trajectories, and Voyager 1 was going to get to Jupiter first.
Yep.
Even though Voyager 2 launched first.
Yep.
Funny.
Weird stuff.
Just where the Earth was in orbit or whatever, like where the in relation to.
And their gravity assists, I believe, were different. It's just crazy. The people that figure this stuff out, it's just like, how do you know that? Like, what I don't get it. Especially before like supercomputers and stuff. How did they do that? Who was that smart?
Well, it was the Hidden Figures, right? The movie. The girls doing they were the computers, right?
Basically. I mean, yeah. Well,
so that was a job title.
Just a lot of very, very, very smart people.
And it was usually women.
Yeah. Women are just as capable.
They're smart, guys.
Yeah. Fun fact.
Real quick, some of the discoveries that the Opportunity made. I feel like we should at least hint on that a little bit. It was actually the first Mars rover mission, whatever, to discover evidence of previous water on Mars. They found these things that they call blueberries, or these little round, like BB-looking pellet rocks everywhere, and they were made out of hematite and jarosite. I'm reading off the website here, which only form when rocks are exposed to acidic water. So that was the first proof we ever found that there was liquid water on Mars at some point in its past. It went to couple of different craters, the Victoria crater and the Endurance crater. 28 miles this thing rolled around in the time that it was up there.
So over a marathon.
Kilometers for our Euro viewers. But there was another crater where it found actually fresh water. So this acidic water that created these blueberries was not something that could have harbored life at any point. But they did find evidence of fresh water in the Endeavour crater. Not now, but evidence of previous fresh water, which they didn't find evidence of life, but they found evidence of something that could have supported life, and that was the first time that had been discovered.
Yeah,
man.
So,
dang.
Yeah, it was the little rover that could, and it's funny how emotional losing Opportunity is. When I posted on Twitter, I got all these responses. People were like, "Oh my God, I'm crying," and somebody said that they hadn't been this emotional since we lost Cassini. Like Cassini was another one that just because it had such beautiful photos of Saturn, and I guess the way we sort of deorbited it into Saturn, it was just very dramatic and
poetic
and
almost.
Emotional. And I don't know if you saw Scott Manley posted his video on Opportunity, and he actually posted an outtake on Twitter where he was busting up and tearing up.
He really was,
Yeah. It's an emotional thing, man.
Dang,
it's funny
guys,
how we anthropomorphize these things, but not to get all psychological about it, but
I guess honestly, I didn't have the personal connection to it as much as some people may have, because I didn't hardly know too much about it before 4 years ago or something. Like my interest in spaceflight and space exploration just hasn't been around long enough. But curiosity, I have a lot stronger attachment to because I did watch that the touchdown of that live. But that's I don't know what it'll be like to lose curiosity. But there's definitely things, like when programs come to an end, or if there happens to be a loss of vehicle. Like I watched live when SpaceX had their first failure live for CRS-7 in 2015. I watched that live, and I definitely yelled an expletive out loud, and I don't know if I actually cried, but I was very upset. Like it ruined my a few days for me for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things where a lot of these things are, obviously the people that actually worked on them or whatever have a direct attachment, but it's almost like a all of humanity thing. Where I remember it was, I think, Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about it, how like does it matter who was the first person on the moon? And maybe to them, but all of us kind of had this feeling of this is humanity. Yeah, that person is the one that made that step, but we as a species made that step. It was this kind of unifying feeling. So I could definitely see a lot of these things, like the first rover on Mars or whatever. The first time we do any of these things, it's the first time we launch a Tesla to space, it's that was our Tesla. It's
yeah. I mean that's one of the things that I just absolutely adore about spaceflight is I say this all the time, or maybe I don't say it enough, but I feel like space is the border that we all share. When you leave Earth, you're leaving the one border that all of us common humans all share, that same border. So it's not, it's so easy for us to be this neighborhood versus that neighborhood. If you're, when you think about your city now, you could be like, oh yeah, screw that neighborhood. That's the bad neighborhood, or whatever, or this state versus that state, especially with sports, or then the Olympics, all of a sudden it's this country versus that country. But spaceflight, yes, it still can be competitive in that, but there is something about it where it's no, this is now humans. This is all of us. It's the one border we all share. There's no more, you look and that's the overview effect too, that a lot of astronauts, when they go up in space and they see Earth for what it is, they're just holy cow.
Yeah.
That reminds me of that series that, I don't know if it's new, it's just new to me, called One Strange Rock. Have you guys been watching that?
On
with Will Smith narrating?
National Geographic? It's on Netflix. I think it's National Geographic.
I haven't watched that yet.
I've been meaning to watch it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Same.
And they have a bunch of astronauts there that talk about that exact thing. And it's very informational, about how the world works, but it's kind of told through their perspective of, look, when we're up there, we're seeing this and you've never seen it. And it, so how oxygen works. I think is one of the first episodes. Like the plants aren't really the ones that are producing the oxygen that we use. It's these little microbial things that are in the ocean water that get sucked up into the cloud. It's just and then you see a shot from space and you're like, oh yeah, it's right there. But if you'd never been to space and seen that, you would have never had that thought, right? You'd be like, oh, this water's so blue, but you don't know why and what that actually means.
Weird. So, I need to watch that.
Series. Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. So, goodbye, old friend.
Something a little bit more positive.
Yeah, let's do it. That's sad, but it's also, it should be totally celebrated one more time. Just good job to the teams involved. Yeah. That was a beyond flawless mission. So,
and I am sure that someday our grandchildren and great-grandchildren will be able to see Opportunity in the first museum on Mars.
I seriously can't wait. Can you imagine? Although, side note, we're trying to move on here, but the moon landing sites are actually protected sites. I think there's actually a radius of how close any other probes or any spacecraft or humans are allowed to go there. But I still think it'd be really cool to, at some point put a protective case around it or something and have people be able to go up close to some of those missions too.
Well, did you read Artemis? Were we talking about that?
No, you said that I need to.
Yes.
Okay, well, that
I read it.
It's about a moon base, but it's set up near the Apollo 11 site, and it talks about how it's a protected site, but people can take trains around it to kind of see the spot.
Okay, I need to read that. I'll get it on audiobook.
That's the book right there.
Yeah. Hey, Andy.
Hi, Andy. We're buds.
I know. Well,
so my dog was barking a second ago. That would be a great segue to...
Yeah, let's hear it. What do we have now, Ben?
Well, Tesla likes to have fun, with things like fart mode, which is, I believe, still the highest rated fart mode of any other vehicle. So Tesla still has that. But they also released dog mode. And this is a new setting, climate control setting. Let me pull it up on the screen for you guys here. It's a climate control setting where you can essentially make sure that the vehicle remains at a cool temperature, as well as it puts a display on the Model 3. I assume it'll be the same for the Model S and X, where it says, "My owner will be back soon. Don't worry, the AC is on," and it has the temperature displayed there. So this way, if you need to run to the store, you have your dogs in the car. People, passersby, will be able to recognize that it is safe for them. So pretty straightforward, very similar to the climate control keep on already, which is already a feature, commonly known as camper mode. But now you have this. So the only thing I wish that would change is instead of dog, it said kid. Because that would be more useful for me.
But I don't think it's generally a good idea to leave your kid in the car, is it?
Ideas,
Somebody looks
let's talk about the span of human history here, and mistakes people have made. No, I don't know. That is a big concern. I'm joking about that, but that is a big concern that people have, is that they'll essentially use this for kids as well.
And it says my owner will be back soon. So
yeah, that's what I was laughing at. There was a kid in there that says my owner will be back soon.
If you guys are on YouTube, if you're only listening, we have a video of this from Tesla that's playing. I believe someone said these are actually Elon Musk's dogs.
Really?
Which was surprising to me. I didn't know he had dogs. I mean, he has 5 or 6 kids?
It's
five
boys, I believe.
Yeah, but I think they had one of them passed away, I think, as well. So I think he's had 6, but 5.
I think you're right.
Current. Getting dark on you guys real quick. So anyway, dog mode. There you go. You guys going to use it? What do you think? What say you?
I don't have a dog.
Once in a while, I'll have the dog in my car, and I got to run in to grab a coffee or something. I'll probably throw that on there. I mean, it's basically the leave the climate control thing on, except it puts a different screen up. That's basically all it is, right?
It's exactly what it is. And that way passerbyers don't call the police and have them break your window in.
I wonder, is there a law for, or I know I'm from Arizona and this would happen all the time. I mean, Texas gets really hot. Like, is there an actual law for or against this?
Some states do. Some states do. And I remember when I was reading about the dog mode thing, it was like, saying make sure and check your laws in your state, because if it's illegal, it's still illegal. Even if you're in a Tesla. So
what is the rule with kids? Is there laws against that as well? Do we know?
I think you're leaving.
It would be really depressing if there were laws against leaving a dog in a car but not a kid.
Yeah. Well, I think you're leaving a child unattended, which can be negligence, basically.
But is that one of those, like, if something happens, you get dinged for it, Or if it's like, hey, you left your kid unattended, boom, you're dinged for it, even though nothing happened. Like, what's the...
I have no idea. Don't have kids either, so I don't know. Ben's over here like, crap, I leave Jack in the car every day for 3 hours while I'm at work.
See, he's too old now. He would escape. He would, open the door and just run away. like I don't actually have that option anymore. Yeah, so
that's funny.
But wasn't one of the reasons why they wanted to do this, or this was one of those Twitter things? Somebody asked Elon on Twitter, and he was like, "Sure, let's do that."
Yeah.
But wasn't it because people were leaving their dogs in the car and they had the climate control on and everything was fine, but somebody would break the window to try to save the dog or something?
Yep.
Didn't that happen a couple times?
Yep. Or that's the story, or the concern maybe. I don't know if it did happen or not, but I think someone's like, I had people yelling at me when I got back to the car or something, because I'm like, no, climate control's on. They didn't know though, so this is just a way to prevent that. I think it's cool.
So, I'm living in the future, man.
So there. Speaking of broken windows,
I love these segues today, guys. Good work.
Tesla
that is a good
segue. Tesla also released something called Sentry mode, Sentry, unlike how it's spelled in San Diego, which is a totally different thing. And what this is well, I'll see if I have a good video of it here for people that are watching. But when you approach the car now, what'll happen is let me just preface this. So it started with in San Francisco, there were a lot of break-ins happening in Model 3s. And what would happen is there's a little back quarter window in the back, the rear doors, and they would break that corner window out, grab the seat latch, pull the seat down, so then you can shine a flashlight in the trunk and see if there were any valuables in the trunk. This is why I always encourage people to just leave your valuables, on your seat in the front, so they just don't have to break the window. So they just know. Kidding. But that was happening, and then if there was something in there, they could actually break the bigger window out, crawl into the car, pull both seats down, and get into the trunk, and then get out through the window without the alarm ever going off.
Yeah.
So the alarm for Teslas prior to Sentry mode was only triggered if the doors or trunk were opened when it was locked. So, and it wasn't, unlocked with a key card or something like that. So you could essentially just break the windows, go get the thing, and then, you're good to go. And what had happened, there were a few reports of this where, like at a supercharger, there would be like 5 cars in a row that had that quarter window broken out. And then they found one car that had something valuable in it. And so that was the one they actually got the stuff from. So
that seems dangerous to do it at a supercharger, because I feel like people don't leave, they don't go too far, and if you have 5 cars sitting there, the odds of someone coming back within 5
And
minutes.
there's usually somebody sleeping in their car.
Yeah, man, that seems
5.
stupid.
At
Stupider
the same
than it
time,
already is.
Yeah, I don't know. Those were the reports we heard. That was kind of the background story of why they created this. So back to the little video here showing what it is. Now what happens is it's using all of the cameras. You have to enable it, but then it's using all of the cameras, and if someone approaches the vehicle, it will actually flash the lights. And even if they come up from the side, it will flash the lights and turn on in the middle screen HAL 9000. And it'll say protected by Tesla, you are now being recorded, and it'll have like a little number saying, the seconds that are being recorded. Then if there's any issues at all with the if like the door gets opened or anything like that, it'll sound the alarm and start playing was it Bach or Beethoven or something? I forget what it is. It's like some dun 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 dun, dun like that classical song we all know, which I won't do because we'll get copyright stricken for that. But yeah, so it'll start doing that. So now, if people were to do the same thing before, where you break out the window, whatever, it's going to be recording camera, so it has video footage of all of it. It's going to be sounding the alarm, honking the horn, doing the lights, all that kind of stuff, to help. I mean, I guess at that point it didn't help prevent it, but it's going to try to discourage people that are currently doing this from continuing to do it, I think is the main thing.
I think if you set the tone that don't screw with Teslas, hopefully it just helps the whole thing,
Yeah.
If that's just kind of the now known that, like, dude, they got these things pretty wired up, it's not worth our time. Although people probably just wear a mask and gloves.
Right.
But.
Right. But still, yeah.
It's not foolproof, obviously, but it helps just to be like, hey, don't, and even in general, like, don't screw with my car. Don't come up and key it. Don't. If you run into it while it's parked, I'll know who you are. Like, hopefully, just setting that whole tone of like, haha, gotcha.
Yeah.
But also, can I say I was right that it's not a huge issue with Phantom Drain? Have you been seeing that? People have been kind of testing it.
Have they tested Phantom Drain with it?
Someone said, like, it was on Reddit. Someone did it on the first day of having it, turned it on all day while at work, and it was, after like 8 hours of use, went down 3%, which is pretty normal for the car anyway.
3%? 9 miles? That's a lot.
For a whole day? 9 hours. That's pretty normal sitting there for 9 hours, isn't it?
I guess it depends on the temperature. Mine, it'll be like 1 mile, 2 miles all day, but it's sitting in a garage at 60 degrees. So,
well, still,
I would sacrifice 9 miles to make sure my car was safe for the day if I wasn't on some road trip or something.
Well, this will be the interesting thing. So I'm super stoked on this. I think it was brilliant how they're doing it. I am concerned about Phantom Drain, and I'm going to test that if and when I ever get an update. Tesla referral program team, what's up? But the thing is, like, it'll be interesting to see if it does prevent them from actually happening, because we know that even if, like, let's say you had a video of someone breaking into your car and stealing something, in some cities that doesn't even matter. Like, you could report it to the police and they're like, cool, sorry, like, we can't investigate. It's not worth their time or money, out here in California anyway. So I wonder if it'll actually prevent them. I hope it does. And Tim, kind of what you're saying about, like, getting this notion of, like, don't mess with these cars because they can whatever.
Maybe someday it'll be able to just run them over. See someone breaking in, chases them down. Drive away. No, I like the idea of using, like, that follow me mode or whatever that's supposed to come out soon, and just have it just run them over. Just running.
Do you remember ticket avoidance mode? It was an
April Fool's thing.
An April Fool's thing, but that's, like, so real. Like, somebody did that, I think, on did a video on that where they were getting a ticket and they just kept moving their car from their office or whatever.
I forgot to tell you guys, I did something fun for the first time where someone was extremely useful. It was last Friday. Yeah, right. Because normally someone's pretty much just a straight up gimmick. But last Friday,
Tim having fun. Wait a minute.
But last Friday there was a full blown, like, or maybe it was a Sunday. I don't know. Sunday night there was like a legit blizzard. Where it's just coming down sideways. I was over at my sister and brother-in-law's house, my sister's family's house, and my parents were there too. So we both were parked in the driveway, right? They have just a normal, like, 2-car garage driveway, and we're both parked in the driveway. And my brother-in-law actually had to go. He teaches a ninja class, so he, with his kids, they were, like, trying to leave, but both our cars were blocking the exit. And so I stayed inside, looked out the window, backed the car up all the way. I actually got it into the street a little bit so he could go and snake around us, and then pulled the car right back in, all without even having to put shoes on or go outside or do anything. And it was pretty darn slick.
Wait. You didn't have shoes on? That's dangerous. If you're using summon, please, people, wear your shoes.
What? You actually had me concerned there for a second. Like, wait. Is there some, like, static electricity thing? Like,
I just thought that was a random anecdote, so I thought I'd comment on it.
I mean, it's just nice to be. Maybe that's a Midwestern thing too. Side note, for those who
don't
have
to put my pants on,
For those of you that don't live in the Midwest and have German ancestry, yes, we take our shoes off every time we go inside. There you go. What? That might need to be explained to some people. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't understand this. I live in a barn.
Right.
I sleep in my shoes, so.
I mean, why don't they just not have shoes? Did I say the word?
You did. And you mentioned gravity earlier, which I think kind of relates to this, right?
That's right. That's right, folks. We do have a why don't they just. And this one comes to our friend Ben Pearson, who runs whereisroadster.com, which is awesome. I used that recently when we did the 1-year Falcon Heavy show. I pulled up whereisroadster.com, which shows where the Roadster actually is in orbit. I think that's really fun. But Ben Pearson there's always the classic, why don't they just launch nuclear waste into the sun? Why don't they just do that? We have a lot of nuclear waste. It's hard to dispose of. It's really, you don't want it leaking around, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, wouldn't that blow the sun up?
No. No. This little tiny speck of
the sun would be like
depleted
ding!
Plutonium in a thing the size of the sun. No.
So here's my guess. It's too expensive, and, like, actually making it, like, why into the sun? Why not just out into empty space? Why not into Venus? I mean, Venus isn't doing anything for us. Let's go. Like, it's closer.
Right? Yeah, those are some good thoughts, Joe. Why don't they just?
Well, okay, so we have nuclear waste, and we store it in these, like, super fun sites. Is that what they're called? Super fun sites?
Super foam or super fun?
Super fund.
Because they're super fun.
Oh. They are you'll have a lot of fun when you grow extra arms when you leave the super fun site
and become Spider-Man. Because Spider-Man has extra arms. I know comics. So we have all this nuclear waste. We put it in this, like, very special safe places. It's supposed to last for 10,000 years and stuff because we don't want it leaching into water. We don't want it getting into our atmosphere and our environment. and yet we're going to launch it into space where there's always the possibility that something could go wrong and blow up and spread that throughout our atmosphere all around the planet. It's just too risky, I think. Plus there's so much of it, and it costs so much to get into space. And yeah.
That's pretty much exactly right. And I'll pull up real quick here just to kind of drill this point in. And I know Ben was saying this, I think, kind of not it's him actually wondering, why, because I think he knows I know he knows the answer. But just to show you guys here, this is a delta V map of the solar system. That means how much change in velocity does it take to get from point A to point B? So say you want to just get, for instance, to get into orbit, you need 9.4 kilometers per second of delta V. And that's a lot. That's why in order to put, a good size payload, like say a Dragon capsule or something like that, it takes a Falcon 9 rocket that's 220, foot tall, 70 meters tall. Like we're talking about a large vehicle that costs $60 million to put something that big into just low Earth orbit. Now to get to the sun from there, say you're in orbit around the Earth and you want to fly it down to the sun, to get to like where it's maybe considered the sun, it's going to take like even just the sun Earth transfer, it's going to take almost basically double that amount of energy. So take the rocket that took it to get into low Earth orbit, and then you have to have a rocket that has twice as much power as that did already, twice as much delta V. So now we're talking about a rocket that's like, 5 Saturn V's or something to put a Falcon 9 into orbit, basically, or whatever. And then it takes even more beyond that. Now we're just getting absurd to actually get down into actually, if you want to like intercept the sun and run into it, it just takes an unbelievable amount of energy. If you think about it, we're orbiting the sun right now at 100,000, a little over 100,000 kilometers an hour. Like the Earth is going around. And in order to lower yourself into the sun, you actually have to slow down a lot. Mm-hmm. Like down to, I don't know, a couple, I don't actually know this number. I was trying to find it. But maybe something like 10,000 or something. So you have to remove an unbelievable amount of energy in order to actually slow down enough to make it so your lowest point intercepts the sun and like runs into the sun. So forget even like the price of things. The actual, trying to do that with any significant mass. So say you have, 1 metric ton of nuclear waste would take a vehicle so big, and that's of course if you don't do gravity assist. But we look at something like the Parker Solar Probe is the fastest traveling object, and it will be doing like 6 or 7 or something gravity assists around Venus in order to get even kind of remotely close to the sun-ish. And that's it's still not really intercepting the sun. It's getting pretty close, closer than any other vehicle's ever gone before. And that required a Delta IV Heavy to do it, and it's a pretty darn small spacecraft. So it's like, yeah, talk about inefficient waste disposal. It's about as inefficient as it gets. It's not as easy. That's one of
the little space things that kind of blows my mind the most, and it's still kind of hard to conceptualize, is that going toward the sun is 1,000 times harder than going away from it.
Yeah, something like that.
There's the Parker Solar Probe, also Bepi Colombo, same kind of thing. Yep. It's going to take like 7 years of gravity assist just to get around Mercury. Of course, that's also the sort of threading the needle to orbit this tiny, tiny planet that's really close to this, like right in the center of this huge star of gravity.
It's the people that again figure all this stuff out is it's unreal. But basically, why don't they just? The answer is it's freaking hard to send anything to the sun. Very cost on it, like the least efficient spend of resources, and it's like Joe said, dangerous. You're putting it on a non-zero chance that will blow up in our atmosphere. Like,
I think that's the biggest thing. Like if you could, if like let's advance our capabilities 50 years, and you could, let's say, send 100% of the nuclear waste out and away instead of towards the sun. And it'll hit an asteroid or something like that eventually, some kind of thing. Then maybe that's not as terrible of an idea, right? Mm-hmm. If you're like, the entirety of the world's nuclear waste, one shot, we have a 99.999% chance of it at least escaping Earth orbit to where we're not worried about it like blowing up here. I think there's maybe some merit to that, but cost and safety, et cetera, would. We're just not there yet.
No.
My vote would be, and I hope this doesn't go too far down a tangent, especially not a political one, but there there are technologies to use the spent fuel to get more energy out of it. There's like sort of second life nuclear technologies that can take the spent fuel from uranium-235 fission and generate more electricity out of that. And so, we had this whole Green New Deal thing in the news right now, which I'm all for, obviously, but they don't have anything about nuclear in there. And that's a very polarizing topic. There's still a lot of people that are like totally anti-nuclear, and I feel like it needs to kind of be on the table. And especially one argument that I do have for that is that, there are technologies that can kind of get second use out of that fuel. And there's all kinds of technologies we could come up with later on that could get some kind of use out of that fuel. So it's not 100% just locked in the ground, unable to be used for anything.
Yeah.
So I would like to see efforts made in that direction. So
it's too bad that we just had some really poor management of some nuclear power plants around the world that kind of spoiled it for the rest of us. But other countries understand the value of nuclear. There's a lot of countries that are solely reliant on nuclear, basically.
I think France and Germany are very reliant on it.
Yeah, and it's very, when it's done right and you have the proper protocols and system in place, like they're as reliable and clean and everything, you know, and it totally makes sense.
The newest nuclear technologies ain't your grandfather's technologies. It's not 3 Mile Island. It's not Chernobyl. It's like it's come so far, and I really need to do another video to kind of update on this because I've talked about thorium and fusion and that kind of thing. We're obviously not there with fusion yet. That'd be great, but there's so many newer, safer, more efficient technologies on nuclear that we could be taking advantage of.
Do I understand that one of the biggest challenges isn't necessarily the act of doing it, but it's creating a safe site? And so, for example, like they just shut down, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, there was a power plant here right on the coast near San Clemente, and they've been going through, it takes years to like decommission these things. And it was after, what was the latest Japan one? Chernobyl? Or no? Fukushima, yeah. After that one, they realized something about how that was built with the seawalls and whatever, that is why that happened. And so they did an inspection of the one here in near San Diego, and they realized it was the same problem. And so they were like, cool, time to shut it down. We got to start that now because it'll take years, apparently.
Yeah.
But like when we learn from our mistakes. That's good.
Yeah, but like the thing I hear isn't so much like how to handle the waste and do that. It's more like, how do you have a place that isn't prone to some natural disaster at some point in the next 100 years? And as climate change kind of messes with everything, it just becomes increasingly difficult to find that place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. That was part of my understanding.
I'm not an expert, so I can't
speak that was part of my understanding as well, at least the conversation in San Diego about it, which is kind of a very like hot topic, I guess, because we have a plant so close, was more about like, well, how could you possibly like building it against the ocean makes sense because you can use ocean water to cool things, but at the same time, do you like it is like beyond hubris of our species to assume that we have any control over how the ocean is going to behave and the ability to harness its power. It's just beyond our, to me, that's absurd. But so I guess like that was the conversation I've heard recently. I'm not sure, somebody maybe that knows more about it. I would love to hear from them. I'm
sure we're going to get lots of comments about our stupid assumptions on nuclear, but
it's a very polarizing topic.
It is a very polarizing topic.
I just feel like there's so many newer technologies that have come out in that direction that most people don't know about.
Yeah. Yep. Speaking of new technologies. Wait, where am I going with this?
Speaking of waste. We're on our game today, guys.
Wait, neither of these have to do with either of the next video next topics. Speaking of being wrong about things, should we do this?
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Yes! Segue time. Speaking of being wrong, I was wrong. I am wrong. This is a really good topic of discussion I think we should have about communication, about science communication. So I put out a video just last week, guys, and it is called Why Aborting from the Gemini May Have Likely Killed the Crew. And it was based on a few things. It was based on a lot of articles, a lot of forums, and including one of the Gemini pilots and astronauts, Tom Stafford, had a kind of a scathing report, or like a part in his book where he's like, it's really a good thing we never aborted from Gemini because we would have been on fire. Like we would have.
The ejector seat.
Yeah, back up a little bit and explain what.
Yeah.
Yes.
What the whole
So
situation is.
basically, the premise is the Gemini capsule used pure oxygen in its environment, and it actually was, at sea level, is at 15 psi. So that's, we found out later, not necessarily a good idea. The Apollo 1 fire happened at the end of the Gemini program, and that's where the Apollo 1 capsule was doing a test run. Basically, they're doing like a pad. They're sitting there on the pad. They're doing a full dress rehearsal, basically, of like as if the vehicle was going to launch. And so they had the 3 astronauts aboard, and in the middle of it, all of a sudden, a spark happened, and in this pure oxygen environment, anything becomes flammable, like highly flammable, because you're pure oxidizer. There's nothing to dilute it. So even things like cloth and Velcro and anything with like carbon in it becomes a fuel. It becomes propellant, basically, and that's what happened in the Apollo 1 fire. Was all of a sudden you have these astronauts in a sealed capsule in a pure oxygen environment that's now on fire, and it was very catastrophic and an extremely big deal and a terrible tragedy and a big oversight. One of those things that made us sit back and go, oh, whoa, maybe this is not a good idea. But actually, interestingly enough, by the way, Apollo still used pure oxygen later.
Oh, really?
Afterwards. Yeah.
Oh, really?
It didn't change the pure oxygen environment. I'm pretty sure the Apollo capsule continued to use pure oxygen, but they had to change a few things, obviously safety-wise. But it was a design consideration because the LEM, the lunar lander, needed to be as light as possible. So therefore, they wanted only 4.7 psi or 4 or 5 psi in it, which required a pure oxygen environment. Something like that. Sorry, totally tangent here. Anyway, so the Gemini program used ejection seats instead of a launch abort system, which ejection seats, if you don't know, they pop out and then fire some retro rockets and GTFO. They get out of there in a hurry. And, you generally think that's a really, in the scheme of things, with a rocket, that sounds like a terrible idea. Like,
Yeah.
offhand, that's what the whole video was basically about, was regurgitating information. And it's not wrong. Like, what I said in the video isn't necessarily wrong. It is like, it's not a very good idea to eject at supersonic speeds, at high altitudes, at X, Y, and Z. There's a big portion of time when ejection seat is a very bad idea. Even on the pad, it seems to me like it'd be a bad idea to potentially land right back where you started, almost, or nearby when a rocket's about to explode or blowing up. It still seems like a bad idea. And I was luckily one of my patrons who, we had some discussion as I'm scripting this, and one of my friends was voicing concern that, maybe you need to make sure and say, like, and he threw up a study that was a 3-year-long NASA study about the use of ejection seats. It's not like they just threw ejection seats in it like this is good enough, but they obviously studied the crap out of it, and said, like, just so you know, like, they studied this stuff. It's not like they're making it up, like, oh, here's a fix. We got to get to the moon. Go. It was well considered. It was well engineered. But the whole premise of the video is kind of the idea that they tested it using a pure nitrogen environment, which is an inert gas. And when the real circumstance was that the astronauts were in a pure oxygen environment, which obviously, ejecting, lighting an abort motor in that environment, what's that going to do to the astronauts? And get this, guys. This is why this is why the internet can actually be an awesome place. I'm just going to pop this up on the screen. A gentleman named Gordon Kress popped on here. I saw this comment like almost right away. And he said, basically was like apologizing for correcting me. And that to me is the most humbling thing ever. Like, and this is someone that was a project test engineer for Gemini, for Weber Aircraft. And he basically did all of this. He countered a lot of things in my video. I had sources saying that, John Young and Gus Grissom were sitting there and they watched an ejection seat failure happen. He said they were not there. And this is someone that would literally know. He went on to explain that here's all the reasons why it was safe under this. and literally basically ended up saying like, this is the quote that really got to me. While our astronauts are extremely intelligent, super test pilots, and true American heroes, none of them that I'm aware of have any experience whatsoever in escape system design. Several of them, including Tom Stafford, did make derogatory comments about the Gemini seat system, and that was unfortunate. They are human just like the rest of us, but their comments should not be taken as gospel. Boom. And I love this, guys. I love this comment by Gordon Kress, who come to find out is an 85-year-old man. I mean, if he was working on the Gemini program, that was in the mid-60s. 85 years old, still sharp as a whistle, absolutely mic dropping this. And
that's amazing.
I love it. I pinned his comment. I'm actually working on potentially doing an interview with him. I want to follow up on this. I still think my video it's not necessarily wrong. The whole idea is that it seems like a bad idea, and here's why it was probably a bad idea. And I still stand by the idea that an ejection seat is worse than an abort tower. You know, that's an abort system that keeps the crew inside the capsule especially, full envelope system like what SpaceX and Boeing are doing now, and Soyuz, where you can abort at any time on your way to orbit. Seems like a good idea, but the premise that an ejection seat is a terrible idea, I definitely stand back on that. It has a lot of merit, a lot of value, and was well considered.
Like a bunch of smart people actually looked at it and researched it. It wasn't a hasty kind of, yeah, let's do that. Works for fighter pilots.
Exactly.
It wasn't. It can very easily appear that way on the outside, not having that background.
Yes, and I'm so glad. And my favorite thing about this comment, I want this to be a lesson learned for anyone that is smart and has the answer to things. Just because you're smart and have the answer to things doesn't mean you need to be rude. Ben's saying no to himself. This is the best part about Gordon's comment. He was polite, engaging, eloquent, well-spoken. He could have been upset that I'm sitting here, in a sense, almost marring his legacy, marring his work as an engineer.
Yeah,
but instead, he comes with grace and dignity and facts, and then just at the end says, "Thanks for letting me vent." Like, what? Like, he didn't have to even apologize or anything. And this almost made me cry because it's just such a testament for how good of a person Gordon is. I mean, that's just amazing. So let that be a lesson to you. If you have the answer in something, you don't have to rub it in someone's face. You don't have to, be rude or anything. Like, it looks better on you and really sinks in a lot more to the person reading the comment or anyone reading these comments, that if you're right and you're polite about it, that's just amazing, and there's a right way to do it.
It always cracks me up because I get things wrong all the time. So, but it always cracks me up when somebody corrects me and goes, "I hate to be that guy." And I'm like, if you're right, then you're right. Be that guy. Just don't be that guy.
Don't. Here's the difference. There's the thing that really hurts some of us is when someone goes, "You idiot," or "You're so stupid, you didn't even think about," or whatever. And it's maybe I totally thought about it, came to a different conclusion. You don't have to insult.
Well, I got a bunch of those on my video about the cost of owning the Model 3, and one of the numbers in there is how much I spent on electricity per month for the vehicle. And I thought it would be too boring to include how I came to that number. So I just kind of, plainly state it's $26 a month. And then I go in to talk about I have solar. And I have, countless comments on there about, well, you need to amortize that cost and account for blah, 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 blah. And people are just furious with me about it. And I've commented on a few of them because usually what I'll do, if I get something wrong, I'm happy to admit it, but I'll find the one that is being respectful and pointing it out and not trying to be you're an idiot kind of thing. And the answer is, that's how I got to the $26.
Yeah.
Yes, you guys are all right. And by the way, I have a whole video that I did a year and a half ago explaining that exact topic. So, yes, but you're right. If there was some more politeness in that, I think that we could have more fruitful discussions. I tend to get a lot of people, I'm sure you guys too, of you're the idiot kind of thing. And they actually don't know they didn't actually do the research to begin with.
Themselves,
But yeah, but it's a fair point. Like it'd be really good if there were a way to. I mean, this is kind of why I have a private Facebook group for the people that actually follow along with the stuff I do, because there we have civil discussions about things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? YouTube is
Same.
open to anybody, and I don't know what your guys' percentages are, but for me, it's like 70+% of the people watching my videos are non-subscribers. So you're kind of like, yeah, it's easy for someone to have never seen a video of yours before come in and just, pounce all over you thinking that they're morally superior or whatever. But to me, it's almost like not even worth looking at those comments. That's why I try to have those discussions elsewhere
ahead of time,
where you have people that are bought in, even if it's just literally clicking a button to say you want to be a part of this community, you've taken an act in just that alone kind of levels up that conversation.
That's
the comment that I always get that I mean, it's not even that rude, but it's just you when you hear it 5,000 times, after a while you're like, but as they say, you forgot this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You forgot this. And it's like, actually, I didn't forget it. I just didn't include it because it's a 10-minute video and there's only so much time to get this stuff out, and I didn't feel it was relevant, or whatever.
Yeah.
But something about the word forgot implies stupidity or carelessness or something, and it's just like
like Scorsese, you forgot to have him show up at the place and do this before that. You're like, no, he's a filmmaker. He chose that for a reason. I think that's something, unless you've done this, you don't understand that there, well, at least I try to.
Compromises.
Yeah, like you can't just include everything. Otherwise, every video would be an hour and a half long and you'd never make it, and no one would ever watch it. So you have to pull apart the most salient points and put those into a narrative that people can follow. So I think there's a big part missing.
The big video of mine last year that really blew up and did so well, we're kind of getting off. We're just kind of creator ranting.
I wanted to have this conversation, though. Yeah.
Well, so it was that severed head video, the one about how long a severed head remains conscious, and like according to what I read, and of course this is debatable, but some were saying 30 seconds or so. So, but I mean, of course, I go through like the history of the guillotine and how we kind of came to this decision, or blah blah blah. Anyway, it was like a 7 or 8 minute video. And some people get in the comments, they're like, it's 30 seconds there, saved you 10 minutes. Yeah. And I'm like, is that the video you wanted to see when you clicked on that thumbnail? Which is me going, it's 30 seconds, and then it cuts to credits. I mean, like, is that really what you wanted to see?
I know.
'Cause I don't think that's really what you wanted to see.
No, people don't, like, I hate that too when, like, I'm setting up a story. I'm setting up the history, the context of what we're going to be talking about. Same with Gemini even. Like, people will be like, the explanation's at 8:22 or something. There, saved you 8 minutes.
Or
like,
the video starts at
it's like,
or something.
Guys, this is storytelling. Like, I'll bet you anything if you watch it. I learn something every time I make a video. Multiple things where I'm like, that's fun. I'm going to include that. That's really. I didn't realize this was already done in 1946 or whatever. When this is awesome. I'm totally going to include this in this video. Like, I learn a lot doing these. Like, I want to bring that to other people. So when people like,
it comes down to the human. Like the storytelling techniques that we've evolved to love and get value from, which involves a setup. The first part of a story is always the background, the context, setting the stage for what is to come, right? Even if like sports, if you ever watch like the Red Zone channel in the NFL, it's like it's too ADD. Like, oh yeah, they scored another touchdown. Like, the act of scoring that touchdown is not nearly as cool if you didn't see the 7 minutes leading up to it. Right.
Same with soccer. Watching soccer, like, people complain it's so boring because there's, so few goals per game. But it's like, no, it's the close calls and all the plays leading up to that goal.
Yeah.
That make it why people watch it.
Right.
And
no, I agree.
I find it hilarious though that we'll have people on both sides arguing totally opposite points. Like, one will be like, you forgot this, which is saying like the video's too short almost. The other one's like, your video's too long. Like, guys, why don't you two talk to each other and figure out what's worth putting in the video?
I even have friends I know that have put filters in to the comments that block comments that have the words "video starts at."
I might actually do that.
Yeah,
there's no value to that. Like, what?
Well,
I know they think there's some kind of hero, but and
it hurts you as a creator as well, because then the watch time, how long somebody spends on watching the video, goes down.
There's that too, yeah.
So you know, not to say like you want to force people to watch it so you can make more money. That's not the point. The point is like there's value in that, and and if you can prevent people from you know, shortcutting that because you feel it's appropriate to do, there are methods to do it.
So here's, I think part of why some people do that is a very fundamental misunderstanding about how YouTube works. Is they think, because I've had people say this in comments before, they think that you're padding your video and making it longer because you make more money by having more watch time somehow, or like you, with a longer video you make more money, basically, is what some people seem to assume. So they think that instead of just getting the information out, we're like spreading it out and being deceptive and making more money that way. And that's why they're like, video starts here. Like,
that's
this
what I'm
guy's
doing.
just trying to screw you.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, but it doesn't work that way. Like, it's not like YouTube's going, oh, this video is 5 minutes, you're going to get $1. This video is 10 minutes, you're going to get $20. Or something, you know,
but there is a caveat to that, because after 10 minutes, it enables the ability to have mid-roll
ads.
Mid-roll ads. But at the same time, like,
let me just say that's not why I do it. No,
yeah.
But it irks me that people either assume that, like, I just write a script and then I read it, and however long it takes. Like, it doesn't. I get what I want to fit in the script. It's not thrown together. Like, this stuff takes me a long time to script this stuff. But one thing, okay, so first off, or not first off, because we're like 10 minutes into this conversation.
We're 10 off at this point, yeah.
10 off. The conversation starts here, folks. Let me tell you that.
You're welcome.
That first off, in explaining this, there are a lot of positive comments on YouTube. There's a lot of genuine supporters. We're venting here about the vocal minority as YouTube creators. So if you're feeling like we're sitting here going like, well, they're not even appreciating the fact that I said these videos make my day or whatever. No, that is what keeps us sane. Seriously, totally. A fan base and people encouraging your work. It's just so weird to live in a world where anyone can write whatever they want on whatever they want. Like, it's really weird. This doesn't really, like, at no time in the 1950s some famous film director wouldn't hear from a 12-year-old as much as he hears from film critics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're living in a new era here where an expert in this stuff, like Gordon Kress, could have easily got lost in the comments about like how stupid I was or whatever for something else, like, and that's an important thing to remember that can be humbling for us as creators and us as commenters on other videos is really think about what you're going to say to people and the tone, the implicit or explicit tone that you're using in those comments, because it totally can make the difference. And I think that lends to like creator burnout and stuff like that too.
Do you guys have channel memberships turned on?
I do. I just turned it on a couple months ago.
And with that, are you able to, because I think one of the benefits is people that do that, their comments get flagged differently or something?
I'm still figuring this out, by the way. And I have like 20 or 21 or so people who have signed up. I apologize to all of you because I'm still figuring this out.
Yeah,
but no, you get, okay. There's
great sound effect.
Yeah.
Wasn't an effect. Okay. There are these loyalty badges. So like when you first sign up, what mine is it sort of builds out my little logo over time. So when you first sign up, you get like my glasses, which I'm not wearing now, but you get like my glasses, and then after a month you get like the glasses and the beard, and then after that you get the face, and then it's like the circle around the face, and then like after 6 months or so you get like this big
that's cool
sun ray kind of thing around it. So it kind of grows over time. So like, point being, if you are one of the first people to sign up, I've only done it for a couple of months now, so there's not that many people that have anything more than just the first one. But if you'd been doing it for 6 months, you get this big gold seal kind of thing, and when you comment, you're like the man, right?
Or woman.
But like you as the creator, is there a different way to see comments from those people, or is it just scrolling down and seeing that icon?
I think so. This is what bugs me. Like, what I would really... Okay, so, like, the only thing I really offer right now, and I'm still working on it, is, like, exclusive live streams that go to, like, Patreon and...
members.
Channel
membership
members.
People, yeah. I don't think there's a way that you can launch a video so that the video shows up only in the members' feeds. I think you have to do it through the community tab, which people don't really check, or at least like it doesn't pop up on the computer. It maybe pops up on their phone, but not on the computer.
And definitely not on a TV.
Website.
Yeah.
What's that?
Definitely not on a TV, which is
yeah,
where I
not on
watch like
TV,
90% of my YouTube.
Yeah. So it's still kind of limited, I feel, and I'm still trying to figure it out myself. So basically right now is like I'll set up a live stream, I'll post it to the community tab and on a Patreon with that unlisted URL and say we're going to do it on X and Y time. And then they can go see it.
Because I would love that feature if I could, even if it were just for subscribers, basically be like, oh, I want to see comments just from people that have actually clicked. I give a crap, and I want to have a discussion, right? Because that is, for me, the hardest part about engaging in the comments on YouTube is just how to filter out the kind of riffraff from people that actually care. So I was thinking, so we with my channel haven't done channel memberships because we have Patreon, and that's kind of like the same concept. But Patreon obviously is like a full platform with way more features, so whatever. But that was kind of where I was headed with it. Like I would enable it for that reason alone, so that people that wanted to, when they commented on the YouTube video, I would actually see it and read it and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm in the studio right now, and I don't see a way to filter that out, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know that there was a way with TubeBuddy, I think, to link your Patreon and your YouTube channel, and so it was something where like if like you could have your audience do this if they were Patreon supporters, they could click a link and then connect it, so then when they commented in the TubeBuddy interface, you can filter to just those people, but they have to go ahead and like do 3 steps in order to make that happen. So when I looked at that, I'm like, yeah, people like that's a pain in the butt. I wouldn't do it, so I don't expect them to do it. So but yeah, something like that would be much more useful, I think, if there were a way to kind of focus it in, make the discussions better, make it more engaging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, just real quick, going back to that comment that I'm sorry, I forgot
Gordon.
the guy's name. Gordon. Can you, in a nutshell, explain what he said that maybe you got wrong, or that he corrected you on?
So I think
everybody go see the video and you can read it for yourselves. But,
yeah.
but I was just curious if there was anything specifically in there.
Basically, the real nugget here was astronaut safety was the primary concern throughout the program, and every conceivable failure mode and environment was considered. That was the big part. He's saying how safe ejection seats and reliable they are. And then he said the seat did not blast through the hatch. It's one of the errors that's been spread. That's a rumor that's been spread around. As the hatch actuator, he basically talked about how it wouldn't really have... since the seat is at the top of the rails when the rocket is ignited. So it actually gets like sprung up first without like igniting the rockets. There is no flame inside the vehicle before, and no problem with oxygen environment. So that's the nut of it, is like they don't really start igniting those motors until the seats are out of the pure oxygen environment. That's like the biggest nugget. And just so you guys know, like I pinned this comment to give it as much visibility as possible. And like I said, I do want to do a follow through, and it might end up being another biggest facepalms of spaceflight history, Tim regurgitating this like misinformation, you know? And I try so hard, guys. I don't want you thinking I'm like just regurgitating a Wikipedia article or something, because trust me, we go through a lot of like my community. Like I said, I had a guy, my friend John, send me this 50-page report from NASA. That was a 3-year study on this. And I went through, we all together went through a lot of that study. Like we don't just try, we try really hard not to regurgitate rumors. But when that is the first 5 pages of your like searching Google searches and stuff is the same stuff regurgitated, like this stuff gets lost. You know, something like this, I never saw anything like this until Gordon. And I tried to find refutable things. So I'm going to hopefully help correct that now.
And can I just say, one of my favorite things about kind of where I am now anyway with my channel, and you guys are pretty much there too, is that like you get access to people like that.
Yeah.
Like you never know when like that guy might show up and be able to set the record straight, or just add to the conversation in some way. I'm at this place now where like if I talk about somebody in a video, like there's a good chance they'll see it.
Yeah.
It's just really weird. Like I did a video on quantized inertia, And I said a million times in the video, I'm like, I'm sure I'm getting most of this wrong because it's just way upper level stuff, theoretical physics stuff. And the guy who came up with it like reached out to me on Twitter and was like, yeah, I just wanted to correct a couple of things there. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding? And it's like part of me, like I get a little panic, like, oh God, what did I say wrong? But the other side is just like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like I would have never gotten a chance to communicate with that person,
Right.
So that's really cool.
Yeah. I hope that as society we learn how to almost value the ones that have there's little intrinsic motivation or like any reason for someone to see this comment otherwise. This could easily have gotten lost forever.
Yeah. But I'm like, if I was hanging out at a bar or something and some 80-year-old dude sitting there having a drink and I started a conversation and it turned out he worked on the Gemini program, that would have been like the most amazing thing. I would have been so happy and I would have had so many questions for him, and what are the odds of that happening? Almost nothing. But it's
like I was in LA recently. I saw this homeless guy with this supermodel. Turned out to be Post Malone, and I was just like blown away by
What? That was the worst transitional. That had nothing to. Nope. No credit for Ben. Ben
Points
gets no credit.
deducted.
Oh, come on.
Docked points.
So are
on this
you
chalkboard.
I get muted. I get muted. What's that? The Jim Rome show. You like mute someone, and you get points for good things.
But yeah, so that's our. I wanted to hold this conversation because I think we've talked about this on the show previously, and I think some people don't like this conversation. So sorry if you're one of those, but it is. We're all part of it. This literally is all of us. If you've ever typed up a comment on YouTube, this is you. If you've ever created a YouTube video, this is you. This is important because this is a lot of what shapes opinion and culture and societal norms. Like, it's weird. We're in this weird place as society where all of a sudden a 13-year-old with no life experience in some of this stuff can be spouting misinformation as loudly as Gordon Kress, who had years and years and years and a lifetime of engineering on ejection seats. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. So just try to keep that in mind. And most importantly, number one, and the Community of Tomorrow, TMRO, one of my favorite YouTube channels that does space news, they've always said, debate the topic, not the person. And I think that's we get so easy to like try to be offensive or try to be, like calling people idiots or stupid. Like, don't do that. If you're that person, reevaluate your life right now and like try to just like learn how to be polite and considerate of the other person's feelings. There we go. There's my rant.
You're such a lovable guy.
Or this is gonna make people like, I hate that Tim guy. He's such a snowflake or something. Or whatever.
I mean, I was thinking it, but I wasn't gonna say it.
Well, I see no good transition into this next topic, so I'm just gonna jump into it. And we have to do it because I got the image for the thumbnail. So if we don't talk about
Speaking of sharp, pointy things that can stab at your soul, Joe.
Wow. Okay.
No, that's
no.
So I did a video a while back, I don't know, last fall or something, about space debris. It's a huge problem, and it's one of these things where I did a video about it, and then suddenly it's like, oh, cool, I have a new existential threat to worry about. So every time we launch stuff into space, we wind up putting a little bit of the space debris up there. And everything from spent stages from Apollo that are still like orbiting the Earth, 50 years later, to tiny little flecks of paint and nuts and bolts and stuff. I think I read there's over 100,000 small pieces of space debris up there that, they're traveling at what's orbital velocity, like 17,000 miles an hour.
17,500 is pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to put that into perspective, I talked about this in my video. These are speeds that we can't even conceptualize here on Earth because anything traveling that fast would just vaporize immediately.
Yeah.
Like we can't even.
Yeah. This is
like
10 times
outside
faster
of
than
our experience.
10 times faster than a bullet, basically.
Exactly.
Like 5 times faster than like a really crazy fast bullet or something. Like
and
nuts.
The velocity, the energy that's carried with that velocity is enough that a tiny speck of paint can break a window. You know. So anyway, it's a problem, and there's something called Kessler Syndrome that we're really worried about, and it's the idea that like once one defunct satellite smashes into another defunct satellite, now there's 20,000 pieces of debris out there, and then that shatters another satellite, now there's 100,000 pieces. It can spread and spread and spread until basically our entire satellite network gets wiped out, and we can never leave Earth again. That's what the Kessler Syndrome is. That's basically what's depicted in the movie Gravity. So anyway, there's a lot of talk around finding ways to remove space debris. And that's what my previous video was about. Plug. But there was one of the things that I talked about in that video was this program called Remove Debris, very cleverly named, from Britain, that they're basically shooting projectiles into pieces of space debris and either attaching some kind of sail to it so it can kind of catch the residual upper atmosphere and slow it down and deorbit it, or capture it with a net, basically. So that was one of several different things that are being talked about and proposed. Anyway, they tested this. I saw this morning, so this is breaking news. They were able to harpoon a satellite with their harpoon, and it was successful. So the professor, this is the worst name, I'm sorry to this guy, Professor Guglielmo Aglietti.
You nailed it.
No, I did not.
No, I had no idea.
From the University of Surrey in Guildford, was the principal investigator. He said, you see the harpoon hit the target in the center as expected and get embedded. The target comes off the boom, but that's not a problem because the harpoon's tethered, it's attached to a wire, so all the elements worked. This is a 13 million pound project, so not that expensive as space stuff goes. And it's just kind of a demonstration mission showing how we can possibly remove some stuff from orbit. Now, I don't know that it's the final solution. That's a terrible term. To this problem, but
it's a solution.
It's a solution, and it's in that direction. I still think it'd be great to have some kind of laser situation up there, especially for the little micro debris where it can just kind of like zap it toward Earth. Like maybe it's like above the low Earth orbit and just kind of like zap it and like create a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Like
inertia.
Vaporization.
Like a vapor trail that can
like just deorbit it. In order to get the like hundreds of thousands of pieces of debris that are out there. But it's something we need to be putting a lot more effort into. It's something that's going to be a problem. It's already a problem. It's something that has kept me up a couple nights now. And
I mean, most
so
importantly, if this
happen.
Kessler thing happened, we wouldn't be able to have this podcast anymore because we all live in different states. So that would be the real bummer, I think.
That would be a bummer.
Yeah. Well, although most of us are probably wired in, so some internet connectivity would work, but there's a lot of things that go very, 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 very wrong. The world would end before that, so because GPS shutting down would destroy everything, basically.
We would be set back like 50 or 60 years.
Yes, literally.
Technologically.
Can I go? I'm not going to refute because I think deorbiting space debris is a very important thing. But I do want to offer just a little bit of a counterpoint to some of the... It's easy to get like very concerned about this. And I don't think we need to be like red alert. I think it's like yellowish, orangish, like it's definitely a consideration. That's why a lot of space companies are launching using systems that do not pollute at all. Like Rocket Lab is a huge proponent of like, hey, we don't leave anything behind. All their systems are pneumatic. There's no explosive bolts. SpaceX is the same thing. Deorbiting their stages when they're done, so that there is nothing residual from the company.
Leave only footprints.
Exactly. Well, you don't even want to do that in space.
Space
So they. So that's number one. Like a lot of this can be addressed just by like being proactive here and with future launches. Number two is even things, especially things in low Earth orbit, like where the ISS is. Nothing there stays in orbit for longer than several months, maybe a year or two, no matter what, because of residual drag of the atmosphere. So even at 400 kilometers in altitude, 250 miles, you're still at an altitude where there's a non-zero amount of drag that eventually takes things out like paint, chips, and any other orbital debris. So it's not like, that picture that Ben showed of, the kind of that classic picture that gets shown of like, here's what space debris is. that can be misleading because it makes it look like how on earth can you ever leave our planet? It looks so bad. So if you're not watching this, if you're looking at this online, this just looks horrifying. You know, this is the classic image. But something to remember when you look at something like this is, don't forget, we're talking about things that are tiny. Like, when you ever seen a picture of all the flights in the air at one time right now? Like, there's more or equal amount or similar amount of airplanes in the sky, and we're not sitting here going, oh, there's 6,000 airplanes in the sky. There's not enough room for them. Like, there's altitudes, there's, you know, they're moving really quickly. They're not just like stuck there, and if you run into one, you're, you know, like, there's a lot of things going on where these are all at different altitudes, different orbital, you know, they're all on different orbits. Like, they're all over the place, and they're like, imagine if there's 100,000 washing machines scattered on different places on the Earth. You know, like, you'd be walking a long time to even potentially run into one. You may never run into one for, you know, 3 weeks of walking around.
Well, you know, like, that's your point here, right? Like, so when you're looking at these dots, you know, you can see it hovering over Spain here. It's like one of these dots on here is about the size of Madrid. Right. So this is not really to scale, is what you're saying, right?
Right.
Like,
these dots, they make it look like they're huge and, you know, they're city size, but in real life, these might be something the size of a bolt or whatever, you know? And like,
you couldn't even actually represent it here and make it visible.
Exactly.
On this picture is what you're saying.
So that's the other big part is yes. This is a concern. Yes. We need to pay attention and maybe start considering options to get some of the more problematic areas down, especially things that could potentially ruin, you know, communication satellites, and especially if it could get into that catastrophic, like, you know, one blows up the other. But the thing with even like the one blows up the other thing that people forget is, say something explodes in orbit, it'll stay in a skinny band. Like, imagine Saturn's rings. Yeah. You know, Saturn's rings isn't like this orb around Saturn. It's a thin line of, you know, where they all end up lining up. And if something blows up in orbit, it doesn't go everywhere around the Earth. It doesn't have enough, like, in order to change your inclination 90 degrees, it takes an insane amount of change in velocity. So it's going to stay on its orbit. It'll just be a skinny stripe of scary debris flying in that similar orbit. It can't really go beyond its orbital inclination. Mm-hmm. So it's still not like a satellite blows up and all of a sudden every satellite in space is now in danger. There's just a lot more going on than see, these pictures can just be misleading and deceiving.
Yeah. And these,
because it's just hard to fathom. It's hard to appreciate like, what this actually means, you know?
So all these okay, so just from a data visualization standpoint, things like this really bother me because, yeah, it appears like the Earth is covered in complete snow.
Yeah.
And one of these dots is like the size of, I don't know, Southern California.
New York City.
Yeah.
Or New York State. Like, these are big dots on this picture.
Right.
I'm sure that's not sperm fertilizing an egg. That's kind of...
It does look like that.
But there is kind of a ring here, as you're saying. So
that's, I mean, geostationary transfer. Those are geostationary satellites.
Yeah, so I'm looking here. This is from NASA. This isn't like, you know, just some random graphic. I wonder if they have any notes in here about, yeah, this isn't really to scale, you know.
I'm sure they are not to scale. The image size of the graphic to optimize their visibility are not scaled to Earth. These images
satellite in your rear view are larger than they appear.
So
yes.
So yeah, I mean, random tangent, but that's like when you see on the news a bar chart and they have a tiny sliver, and then they have one that's like 100 times bigger or 10 times bigger, but the scale of the bar chart doesn't start at 0. Right? Yeah. And like, in truth, they're actually very, very close if you scaled the graph to 0, but because they want to show, they want to make
big
it
increase
look bigger,
or something.
Yeah. That's called lying with data. You know, that's the opposite of what we try to do when we look at data, is to misrepresent things.
Yeah. And it's not like the people that are on this stuff aren't trying to misrepresent it. It's just physically, in order to see and represent it at all, like, it has to be enlarged.
So that would be my only thing here, is like, you should like not publish this image without a legit image showing the actual scale, which would probably just look like a picture of Earth from space.
It just looks like a picture of Earth
with nothing around it.
That's actually a pretty good point. Here's what this actually looks like, and then you just show Earth from
Right,
the
it's just
Discovery
like
telescope.
an image of Earth, practically complete. Nothing floating around at all.
Yeah, you wouldn't, just like you don't see airplanes. Airplanes, there's nothing airplane-sized in space. And when you look at when you look at satellite images, you're not going to see airplanes. Airplanes are insignificant as big as they are. Yeah.
Somebody is typing something about the ISS now.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. Okay, there is one thing as big as an airplane, and it is the International Space Station. But but there is concern, and we need to definitely be just like 30 years ago when people started sounding alarms about climate change. Like, you got to be parts proactive, you got to be parts retroactive, and like starting to reverse some things to help do that. This is that same type of thing. Like, yes, going forward, we need to not leave space debris and also start considering bringing some stuff down.
No, I was really glad to hear what you just said about Rocket Lab, because I assumed that they had that in mind. But with them and SpaceX and some of these other guys, where it's like we're going to open up this whole new frontier and this whole new platform of satellite launches and stuff, CubeSats especially. It's like, are they taking that into consideration? What steps are they taking to prevent that from being a problem? So I'm glad to hear that they, I mean, not that I thought they didn't, but I'm glad to hear that they do have specific.
They take it like they've even like tout that even in their like webcasts of like, this is really important to us, is to deorbit everything, even their kick stage. Cool. So
this might be good, for a defunct satellite that's not responding anymore and they can't deorbit it, from the ground or something, that they can go up and do something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is really cool technology. I didn't know about that until you put it in our thing. No, I didn't know about this demonstrator.
That remove debris program in the old video. So to see some updates on it, that's really cool.
See it actually in action is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Speaking of updates to old videos, how's that? Better?
Yeah.
Better?
That was very good.
I don't know where you're going with this.
Okay.
I don't know where you're going with this either.
An old video I did was on the new electric truck from Rivian.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that video actually has over 100,000 views now. It was one of those where, like, I think the Rivian just being in the news continually kept driving people there. So,
right.
Feeling good about that. So, anyways, they just received $700 million from Amazon, which is quite a big deal. Yeah, go ahead.
It is official now.
Yes.
Yeah?
That is.
Because it was like just rumors until yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
not insignificant at this phase.
Did they say the valuation in here? I mean, this is like, it's funny. It's part. It's like basically nothing value. Because $700 million, I mean, so you know how this stuff works, right? So they sold a percentage of the company to Amazon here.
Right.
So if you're at $700 million for that, and they said Amazon led the investment, so that doesn't mean it was 100% them. But let's say you typically would, I mean, at most sell like 10% of the company. So that means you're at like a $7 billion valuation or something, which is pretty high for a company that's not actually sold one or produced one vehicle yet. I guess maybe in some respect that could be Tesla's doing. Basically instilling belief in everyone else that this is going to happen and it's a real possibility. But I guess, yeah, so small update, big for them. I'm super stoked on this. I really hope Rivian succeeds. If you aren't familiar with it, obviously I have a video on it. Like I said, one of the key distinctions between them and, say, Lucid or Faraday or some of these other EV startups you may have heard of is that these guys actually have a factory in Illinois. And they are currently retrofitting it, which I understand does take a few years. I think this is one of those where somebody corrected me in one of the in the comments there. It was like, yeah, just because they have the space doesn't mean it's like tomorrow they're going to start making cars. Like, it'll take a long time.
Right.
To recap my thoughts from previous about, I love what they're doing. I love the specs, 400 miles plus, towing capacity, et cetera, is great. Like, it's an amazingly well done vehicle. As well as the SUV, which is basically the same thing, but with like a camper shell. There you go. There's some more shots of it. Yeah, so all of these look great. I think, the one thing, the big notch against them that I think they missed on was not attempting to integrate with the supercharger network. I think that's a miss because these are designed to be off-road, long-distance type vehicles. So, that would be really smart, I think. And when I actually talked to them about it, I didn't really appreciate his response, basically saying, well, Tesla should integrate with us. I'm like, sure, bro. Like, you're nobody right now. Like, that's
Right.
really arrogant to be saying stuff like that. So anyways, but overall, I think like this is forcing the issue for Tesla and really pushing things forward. And I just love that, that they now have some big support for some big backers. I wonder if this sparks the Bezos versus Musk kind of thing,
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, now Bezos is officially in the electric EV, the EV market.
Yeah,
I just want to say
EVs. Yeah.
electric EVs, electric vehicles. I do want to say I'm a huge fan. The more I've seen people's reviews of these vehicles that are at the car shows and stuff, the more this seems like a very high-end product and a very well thought out product. And just maybe you might be not sold on like the design or whatever X, Y, and Z, but when you actually see the features that they've thought of, they are thinking of really, really cool things. And I'm really impressed. I see why they received some substantial funding because they've made a really compelling vehicle that I think is worth being taken seriously, and I can see why it's hopefully coming to market soon.
Yeah, they've been really smart.
Yeah.
So GM was rumored to be investing as well. Did that not come in just yet?
There was no mention of GM
Yeah.
from them about this.
Hmm.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. I mean, but I wonder if GM's like, can we just buy you? What's the point? Like,
Yeah.
I kind of suspected that something like that might happen, either Ford or GM to just buy out Rivian or some other. Rivian seems like the best option for them, especially because they're in the truck business.
trucks and SUVs that legit look and act like trucks and SUVs, right?
Yeah.
Like Tesla has an
Yeah.
SUV, but that is not an SUV. If you've been in it, and like if you come from, let's say, a Tahoe, Chevy Tahoe, and then you hop in a Tesla Model X, these are worlds apart. They are
Yeah.
not even close. If you come from a Chevy Tahoe and you hop in the Rivian R1S, it's very similar.
Right.
The design, everything about it. And so I think they are making much more mainstream designs that fit within kind of our current view of things.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's, like you mentioned, a lot of little quirks and features that do elevate their technology. But just looking at it from the outside, you wouldn't walk by and think like, what the heck is that thing? Where you definitely feel that way when you see like a Tesla without a front grille and things like that. So I think,
Yeah.
I'm like I said, I wish them all the best. The only real thing that I wish they would have done, or hope they maybe do in the future, is integrate with the Tesla Supercharger network. I think that would be a big win. And from my perspective, I can't see why they wouldn't attempt that.
I don't understand why they or any of the other companies that are putting EVs out there, like nobody's gotten on board with it, have they?
No, zero.
Is there some requirement that Tesla has for them to be on that's just like a bridge too far for a lot of these people? Like, I don't understand why they wouldn't want to be on easily the biggest charging network out there.
It's hubris for one. These guys are just too egocentric or egotistical to want to do it is my impression. Now, I'm not saying that about Rivian. I'm saying that about Mercedes and Audi. And I honestly think for them it makes sense, because there would definitely be a little bit of like tail between the legs when you're going over to Tesla to ask them for help, when you have publicly shamed them just countlessly about how terrible they are. I mean, it'd be a real hard pill to swallow, I think, for the bigger automakers, right? Ford, GM, whomever, not just picking on the Germans here, but whomever's doing that. Now, with the startups, that is where I don't understand at all why you wouldn't at least have that conversation. And actually, it would be very interesting. I would love to hear, hey, yeah, we asked them, and it turns out that they don't want us to do it for whatever reason. Like, that would be a very insightful thing to hear, I think.
Yeah.
But if you're a startup and you don't have that brand that you need to protect, like imagine if you're an Audi owner and you were like just hardcore Audi, like people are hardcore whatever, the owners would probably be like, yeah, I don't want to be at a Tesla thing, I feel weird. Like, I could understand that, kind of have protecting the brand. But when you don't have a brand to protect yet, what's the
the
holdup? Why not do it?
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna assume these guys aren't idiots. I'm guessing they have their reasons, but I mean, again, me living here in Texas and having long distances to cover, the fact that there's that supercharger network played a big part in
No
my
doubt.
decision to get one. You know,
maybe though they're looking at, they've talked to other companies or whatever, because there are some solutions starting to roll out pretty aggressively, with like the Electrify America and stuff. And maybe they just said like, in 3 years, this won't even be an issue. Like, let's not bow down to
it's not.
Tesla, because in 3 years, there'll be so many other options that Tesla will just be one of them, I'm guessing that's some of it.
Yeah, and if you go to plugshare.com, you can actually look for these things. I think in my video about Rivian, my first impressions I talked about this. You can actually go find, the fast charger, the DC. So just if people aren't familiar, real quickly, there's level 1, 2, and 3 in charging. Level 1 is like what you get at your house, unless you have the like high power wall charger installed at your house. That's level 2. And then level 3 is basically Tesla superchargers, as well as there are some DC fast chargers by EVgo is the one. And so on PlugShare, if you go look for this and you can filter it down, you need either the CHAdeMO or the CCS plug, which, by the way, the CCS plug is what they have now standard in the Model 3 in Europe, and I believe in Asia. You can see if you guys are just listening on YouTube, we're seeing a map of all of these DC fast chargers. I think, do I have to filter by that? No, but again, to scale here, right? But when you look at these, like Joe, you're out in Texas, right, near Dallas. Why is my internet so slow? You can see like there's like maybe a handful of them in Dallas.
Oh, there's actually a lot.
Well, again,
there's an EVgo right down the street. Yeah.
That can't all be supercharger speed ones.
Well, there's one at Cracker Barrel, so we know
So we're
Joe.
We're good.
We know Joe has an option here.
I made it this far without breaking into a coughing fit.
But the Cracker Barrel did it for you.
Yep.
Yeah, no, for some reason.
But that doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily tell you how fast it is, does it?
No, but usually if it's the CHAdeMO CCS, that's usually the faster DC charging thing. And then this J1772, this is your standard level 2 charger connector here. So they exist, but why not reach out to Tesla? To give you a sense of it, like I asked one of the guys, I forget his role there, and so if anyone from Rivian's listening who wants to correct me on what I heard him say, please do. But I asked, why didn't you go to Tesla and ask them to make your battery packs? Because I thought that was, again, another thing that Tesla obviously has a kind of a majority stake in and tremendous amount of skill and capacity. So why don't you just say, hey, look, you build the packs, we'll use the supercharger network, we'll take it from there. And he said, well, actually, we want to become the battery provider. We want Tesla to buy batteries from us. And again, I'm just like pure hubris. Like what are you smoking, dude?
Who was saying that?
The guy from Rivian. And I'm just thinking,
Scaringe, RJ Scaringe.
No, it wasn't him. I didn't talk to RJ, but it was someone else. I believe on the executive team there. But it's just to me like that's such an absurd notion,
Like that's great and all. Like I get your ambitions there, but
Yeah.
that's not a reason to do it. Like you're not saying we're not going to buy batteries from them because we're going to have them buy batteries from us. Like
That's how it felt. That very much was like, yeah.
that seems like you can't have that be your basis. I don't know. That just seems a little off.
As Mercedes, I get that. I get you want to be, look, we are the bigger
Protected.
brand. We invented the car, blah, blah, blah. But when you're a startup, no. Like, why? Like, if I'm a startup and I'm doing that, I just want to succeed. I just want to sell, like, I just want to do whatever I can. And so maybe there was a legit answer to that. But the answer I got was very much like, well, we're thinking that they'll want to buy batteries from us. I'm like, I don't know what kind of drugs you're on, but no, that's not going to happen, dude.
I feel like that's like an app maker saying that someday Apple will buy computers from them or something.
Right.
It's like,
yeah, like, no, I think Apple's got it handled.
yeah, I think they're okay.
Yeah.
Or it's almost like saying like, hey, we developed this cool app for the iPhone, but we don't want Apple to buy it. It's going to be so good, we're going to buy Apple.
Right. It's just kind of backwards. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
But we wish them luck.
Yeah. No, yeah,
Wish
that's
them
not supposed to be a rant against Rivian, but that is kind of silly. But in general, I'm super, super, super stoked for Rivian. I love it.
And I have a lot of friends that have put down deposits, and I hope, like, I legitimately am all for what they're doing and all that. I just have some other notions there of like, what?
The funniest thing is I'm super anti SUV and trucks. Like normally, I just can't stand them. I don't know why people drive such big vehicles. But then I saw this, and I'm sitting there going, maybe I should get a truck or an SUV. Like it totally flipped me because it's still green and you get awesome range and they're really good looking in my opinion. And the truck with all of its cool features like that thing that pops down in between the bed and the cab and the huge frunk on a truck totally makes sense. Like having closable storage, like it's the size of like a normal car trunk in the front of the truck. Like that's game changing. That makes a truck way, way more valid as a day-to-day user,
My dad, who is a very diesel truck owner guy, but has reasons to use a truck, saw this and put down a deposit.
Really?
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's it. Like, I've been trying to sell him on a Tesla for years, but he's like, how am I going to throw all my stuff? Like, it just doesn't function for him. And he saw this. It's just right away. He messaged me literally like the day after the thing, like, hey, did you see this? I'm like, yeah, it's my thing. But yes.
Dang.
So it's kind of the same thing. I'm from small town Texas. I go home and see my family, and they were all really excited to see my Tesla. But of course, first thing they asked was like, is there a truck out there? Because they all drive trucks, And I'm like, check out Rivian.
100%.
Maybe someday Tesla, but right now Rivian.
And someday Tesla. By the way, prediction time. I was going to say, I think we talked about this once, but I'm starting to really think we're actually going to see the Model Y and the truck as like in the same type of thing as we saw the Roadster come out of the semi. Like, I mean, it's not going to physically come out of it, but I think
out of the Y? I don't.
Yes, and then it inflates, and that's kind of part of the deal, quantum physics.
It's bigger on the inside. No, I've been predicting that for a while. I always thought that was going to be like a one more thing.
Are we gonna do a push-up bet? Are we gonna do push-ups? Who's gonna bet?
Maybe.
Push-ups every day.
Pick what month that we'll see the truck. And
by the end of the year.
That's not a month. I asked for a month.
The month that we'll see the truck?
Yes. So we all could be wrong.
June.
Okay.
Isn't the Model Y supposed to do in March?
Exactly. That's why I said June.
So you don't think they're going to do it at the same time?
I do. I just don't think the Model Y is going to happen in March.
Okay.
Musk schedule. Musk time.
Musk time.
Elon time.
You got a bet?
I like how we called it Musk schedule, and it's Elon time. Duh.
I feel like we're playing The Price is
High
Right
stakes.
here.
Yeah.
$1.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
I'll say May.
I think that's
I'll undercut Tim and say May.
Yeah, darn it. Ben.
I ain't afraid of no push-ups.
But we're talking about the truck, though, right?
Have you seen these guns?
We're talking about the... Well, you use your chest on push-ups, Joe, just to clarify.
Have you seen these? No.
Man, you know what? I'm gonna say August.
Okay. May,
August.
June, and August for the for the pickup truck, the
For
Tesla
the truck,
pickup truck.
Yeah. I think you're right, Tim. Is we're gonna see both at the same time, and that's why I think it's gonna be delayed. I think the Model Y. Well, we know Elon has stated it that the Model Y is basically ready to go, and I believe have already procured or ordered like the stuff to make it for Gigafactory 1. So. I think that's like well along, but it's like, hey, why don't we just push this out a couple months and we can do both? The question would be if there's going to be a major overlap between the owners of them, because you wouldn't want to unveil both and have them cannibalize each other's sales, just from a product strategy standpoint, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think you would. I think if someone's like waiting on the truck, they're not going to order the small SUV.
Right.
Right.
Same, and vice versa, probably.
Yeah, but if you had like ordered and unveiled the small SUV at the same time as you did the Model 3, there would have been probably a lot
that would have been
confusion between those two.
Yep. Oh well, guys, what are you guys working on?
In the comments, everybody.
What are you guys working on for videos this week?
I'm not. I'm done.
Ben quits.
I meant to record mine on Wednesday, but that's when I woke up with fluid coming out of my face. So I'm going to be recording it after this, but it's I'm talking about the rare earth hypothesis. The idea that it's a little bit on the lines of the Fermi Paradox. The hypothesis that we have not seen other life in the universe because the conditions required to make it are so rare that it can only happen here. And it's like looking at all these specific things here
Is this
on planet Earth.
Drake's equation?
Sort of. It's. I don't talk about that specifically, but yeah, it's sort of along those lines. Just the idea that things like the moon, the dynamo that creates our magnetic field, just all these little weird things. Like we are really actually in an oddball solar system. Like the other solar systems we found and all the exoplanets that we discovered actually are quite different from us for some reason. That's kind of one of the mysteries out there. So it's an interesting topic.
It's awesome. Ben, are you really not working on anything?
My last video did so bad, I'm just done. I just quit. I think every week I quit making videos and then I start up.
Yes, you
next
do.
Week.
Done.
He
He flips his table every single day and walks on.
No, I'm doing some fun stuff. So I'm actually going to hack into my car again and connect it to a trailer legit this time with my buddy Jehu Garcia, who has a great battery guy, has a great channel doing battery stuff. So we're going to hook up and try to actually connect, because the problem is I put the trailer hitch on the Model 3, but there's no brake light hookup. And so in order to actually drive with it, you need a brake light hookup. So he's like, yeah, no problem. We'll just, we just need to rewire it, Tim the Toolman style. And so we're just going to do that. So that's kind of the next thing. I already have another video shot for next week, but that's the one I'm like working on now. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I don't brick my car again. People got real mad that I did that in the title.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on, this is a very comprehensive thing. I kind of started it like months ago. I started getting some stuff laid out for it, but finally finished it up and just shot it before we started recording today, about comparing the two new rides to the International Space Station. So Boeing Dragon capsule versus, or Boeing Starliner versus the SpaceX Dragon capsule, Crew Dragon. And then I also compared it at the end of the video. I do a full side-by-side against the Soyuz capsule, which is our current ride of the ISS, and the Space Shuttle, which was our previous ride. So I'm comparing all the vehicles, all their stats, all their everything, like cost per seat, volume, I'm really excited about this one. This is one that I've wanted to do for a long time, and with Crew Dragon coming up right on the horizon, I think it should be good time, once that thing launches, having it kind of there as a good resource for people as Crew Dragon goes and as Starliner goes. Hopefully a good, healthy rundown on the two. I hope people find that valuable. I really enjoyed putting it together, so yeah.
Cool.
So hopefully that'll be out next week. Yeah. Yeah, baby. Okay. So there we go. Well, hold on. Be sure and send us your Why Don't They Just. We need more Why Don't They Just. We didn't have very many last week. So please.
We had to talk about the sun and nuclear waste this time.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. No, just kidding. Not you, Ben. Ben Pearson. Sorry. No, the Ben that did the nuclear waste.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, please send us really good ones because we need them for that segment. So, yeah. There you go. Well,
cool.
As you say,
yeah.
We'll
see you again in our ludicrous future.
May the Schwartz be with you.